Been living in a constant terror and having one obsessed, crazy stalker ex-boyfriend is one of the things in my life I never even imagined is going to happen to me. I know that some people have been experienced that something like themselves, like either in person or online, but never in my life did I ever expected to have this type of crazy experience myself. My name is Michelle. I'm currently 27 years old, and this all happened 5 years ago, around the spring of 2018, and it only lasted for only for a couple of months. And I just say it scared me so much. I was living in a constant fear that my crazy obsessed boyfriend would find me anywhere I wherever I went, and I was petrified every single time if I was alone, even if I went to work or anywhere. This is my story of my obsessed ex-boyfriend. A brief backstory probably necessary. 5 years ago, around springtime, I was single. I had been single since my senior year of high school. My boyfriend at the high school and I would be broke up since he was going to college and I wasn't. So ever since then, I decided to focus on my life to, you know, career, friends, family. But when I reached 22 years old, I wanted to settle down and one day to find my future husband and just settle down, start a family. But since I have been single for a few years and I was a little bit rusty in the dating scene, so one of my friends, Sarah, took me to the bar in town one Friday, and there was nothing. This was not intentionally to being looking for guys. We just wanted to go to the bar to just grab a drink and just have a girls' night out. But at the bar, I actually ran into this guy named Jacob. He was only about 2 years older than me, and I can't lie, he's a good looking guy. Blonde, blue eyes, well fit trained, and he had this type of goofy side of him which actually somehow attracted to me. And after me and Jacob were talking, Sarah noticed that I was actually somehow attracted to him and suggested I took his number. And even though I was a little bit afraid to ask him, so she did that for me. And he didn't hesitate to give me his number. Ever since then, we started talking on the phone, like calling each other, texting, and it took a while, maybe about a week, before he asked me out. I was flattered and said yes immediately. He suggested we go to the movies as a first date, and I didn't mind. We actually had a great time at the time, and it didn't become official after a couple of weeks later, and he was really the guy I was potentially looking for as a husband, or at least someone I could have a long-term relationship with. He told me that he was working as mechanic, which was self-employed, and it was going well for him. And myself, well, I was working in an office building, and I was just normally having a good time. After we had made official, we started to spend more time together at his place or my place. Luckily though, I never gave him a spare key, which would be an eventually. You may understand why later on though. But after almost we have been dating for almost a month, I started to see some changes in his personality. He started acting a little bit clingy. When I didn't text him right away, he started texting me once again and asked why I wasn't answering him. When if I didn't do that, he started calling me, and I told him that I was probably not at the phone at the time because I was either doing dishes or doing some dinner or something, or I was probably doing some work from home. And he actually accepted that. And but that was just small things. But when we were in a public, either at the restaurant or cafe or anywhere, if there was a guy who approached me to just like if we were in the cafe where there was a guy who was actually giving us the menu, or even the restaurants when he gave us there was a male waitress who gave us the menu, and when he started asking me what I wanted, I somehow could see that Jacob was giving the guy their "I kill you" type of look. Almost look, it's like he was like shooting daggers at this guy. After the waitress left, he asked me why was I flirting with this guy. I was stunned. I wasn't even flirting. I wasn't even being anything like it. I told him that the guy asked me what I wanted to eat, and I didn't know, so I asked him for any suggestions what he could recommend, and he dropped the topic. And I was like, okay, this was just one time event, but it didn't. This happened all the time, especially when I was with Jacob at my place, and suddenly my phone rang, and he saw there was a guy's name, Sean. I should mention this. Sean is my best friend since high school, and he knew about Sean because he actually met him before we was even officially dating. And he started accusing me for cheating on him with Sean or basically any male guy. I was like, how dare you even to do that? And then he started controlling me, like the minute I gave him the password to my phone so that he could text me, showing to see who has been texting or calling. And if there was a guy that he didn't know, he would block the number. And he even demanded the same thing as for my password for my Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all that. Luckily, I never did give him that. Otherwise, he would have blocked all my social media from any guys, except for maybe family members, but other than that, even though I told him no, that is my personal information, my personal social media, and I'm not giving that away to any of it. He flipped out and freaked out, saying that I was using my social media to hide my secret cheating guys on there. I told him, if you really are going to be and accuse me from being doing this, I'm not going to be what I did want to be with you. After first we'd argue, we had a first fight, like when he started accusing me of cheating on Sean, despite he had met Sean a couple of times, and he even knew him a little bit more. After we became official, when he started accusing me then, at the first fight, I literally told Jacob to just leave my apartment, and he didn't listen. He just wanted to stay and fight. But I managed to push him out. And after he did, I locked the door, I put the chain on it, and he started banging and banging for give him a second chance to let him in so we could talk. But I said, go home. I don't want to have this argue with you. And just leave. He still banged on my door for another half a minute before he left. In fact, the next day he texted me, apologized for having this reaction because he just couldn't stand if I was trying to seduce cheating on him with other guys. But I told him firmly in a text like, Jacob, Sean is my best friend and my childhood friend. I like him as a friend. He's my best friend. He has always been there for me. And in fact, he was the one that also encouraged me to continue to dating you because he liked you because how you treated me with such kindness. But now you start accusing me from cheating on him and other guys. It's unacceptable. And he apologized and asked for forgiveness. I was stupid enough to even to do that. And after that, he didn't mention anything like it for a couple of weeks, which I almost entirely forgot. But after almost in our second month, he started doing the same thing again. But this time, he took it to a whole new level. When we were at the store just buying some groceries to my apartment, this guy walked up to me and he started talking to me with some things, and Jacob stood in front of me and said, "Dude, she's my girlfriend. Back off, or I will kick your ass out of here." The guy started, "Whoa, whoa, 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 calm, dude. I just only asked her for some of the items that they have here." Then the guy just backed off and left. I took it very offensive, and after we left the store, I literally yelled at Jacob how he could even do that. The guy was just only asking for a recommended of brand of cereal. I was like, he was only asking me a question. And then he told me that I was not allowed to talk to any guys, regardless. Except for maybe Sean and some family members, but other guys were not even allowed. If he said, quote, "If I find out, I will kick them. And you will be punished." That was his words, not mine. I was stunned. How dare he even to do this? That was among the last things I would consider to end this. At first, he was really polite. He was generally very funny guy. But now he was completely obsessed. When I actually met up with Sean and Sarah, a couple of days later, they asked me how my relationship with been with Jacob so far. I told them that I was considering to end it, and Sarah was like, "Why? He's a good-looking guy. He's a complete jerk." She was stunned. "What do you mean by a jerk?" Then I told her everything. Everything what he accused me of being cheating with Sean, other guys, and that now I wasn't even allowed to talk to any guys except for Sean and family. And especially when I mentioned it, what happened, the incident at the store. Both Sean and Sarah looked at each other and like, "Whoa, that's not normal." And in fact, even though Sarah told me I probably was overreacted, but I said, "No, the guy was only asking me for a simple question, then how Jacob reacted, and not how he would kick his butt out of their store." So after that talk with my friends, I actually went home, called Jacob up the phone and said, "Jacob, yeah, hey, sweetie." He said he was actually very home and having a good time apparently. But I told him that we are done. I don't want to see him, I told him, "Lose my number. I don't want to see you because your last action at the store was the last drop, and how you're being so obsessed." I was expecting him to be sort of cry and ask me for a second chance. But no. He freaked out and he started yelling at the phone, screaming so loud, like bloody murder type loud scream. How dare I even do this to him? Break his heart. How I even dare to do even cheating on. Now he started bringing the cheating question part again. I told him firmly, "Jacob, I never cheated on you, and all these accusations of me being accused of being cheating on you is far enough to done with it. So after this call, you won't be able to hear from me ever again." I hang up, blocked the number, and even blocked them on social media. And I felt like, now at least he's out of my life. So as far as I thought at least. But ever since then, every single time when I was out, I started to realize that he was stalking me around, following me at distance. And even if I would call someone for help, he probably just leave and said that he was never even there. At first, it happened only first 2 times when I was at a store near my home. It happened once. Okay, I first believed that he was just there for just by random chance. But I was when at the park, just for a walk or run, he was there. When I was at work, I could see him outside the window, looking at my work from his car. I knew it was his car because I recognized the number on the license plate. It went crazy. He started even to make new accounts on Facebook, Instagram, mostly Instagram to keep a tab on me, to have a tab to keep a tab on what I was doing up to. I even confronted him once when I saw him. He denied that he's even following me around. I was there, he was there just by a random chance. I started to feel crazy. I first started to feel paranoid. I was even considered to move to a whole new location. But what would that even help? It wouldn't even, assuming enough I was considering to move to a new place. I mean, that was something I could afford. But then I realized it would only taken time, it wouldn't even take much time to figure out when I moved if he asked some of my friends or something. And I started to having some notes at my door. And since this building didn't even have a security camera outside, and the note said, "I'm watching you," or "Please give me a second chance. I promise I will make it better. I will make up to you." One particular letter stood out. "If you don't give me a second chance, I will kill you and everyone you know." Signed, Jacob. Jacob signed every single note, and I actually kept them. Because when I told Sean about this, he told me not to throw those away because saving them. Because if I would have been built a case against him for stalking or threat, now especially he was threatening my life, and Sean, basically even Sarah or a whole my family, I was terrified. I actually never told my family about this, but one day when I was at my parents' home for during the weekend, I was home alone and I heard this knock on the door. It was like pizza delivery, pizza. I hadn't even ordered pizza. So I looked at the people. It was actually a real pizza delivered by guy. So I took the pizza and he said, "It's already been paid." I asked him who ordered pizza since I didn't. I don't know. It was a guy, probably in his mid-20s, I believe. He didn't saw him directly, but based on the voice, I thanked him. And inside the pizza, it was just my favorite, pineapple pizza. But I know for sure it was Sean. There was Jacob. But I couldn't prove it. And but then that same evening, just before my parents had just arrived home, I heard a knock on the door. I looked out and saw Jacob. He was, well, let's just say, wasted. He had been apparently been drinking so much and he demanded to let him in so we could talk. But what he didn't know, I saw a knife in his jeans pocket. I said, "Jacob, I told you I don't even want to see you ever again. Leave or I will call the police on you." But then he just said, "I will be back." And then he left. I was on the edge. After my parents came home, I told them about what he did. And I actually, by this time, they know all the threats he had done to me. And all I can say is, that night, I was sleeping in my old room, which now is a guest room. I was just sleeping there, and I heard this sound. It was not my room, but a breaking glass was across the house. I opened the door. My room was almost a mini view straight to the kitchen by through a hallway. I saw that someone was at the back door, and I was terrified. I managed to sneak out from my room in the darkness to my parents' room, and I woke up my dad and said, "Someone is trying to break in." My dad straight up grabbed his handgun in the drawer, the nightstand table, and my mom was on the phone with the 911 over this at the same time. My dad sneaked out of the door, and he ordered us to lock it just in case. And then we heard this loud yell that, "Drop the knife, Jacob." He said Jacob. I was horrified. But Jacob didn't listen, and in fact he ran towards my dad and said, "You gonna die, you gonna die, your whole freaking family's gonna die." And he yelled, but my dad, he didn't budge. In fact, I heard at least one warning shot, and it turned out he shot in Jacob's arm, and he collapsed. He collapsed on the floor, dropping the knife, and my dad pointing the gun at him to make sure that he doesn't move. And he was just screaming in pain and he was delusional. He said I was his lover and that we were meant to be, and that my family is keeping me away, lying the stories that he was not crazy. And when the police actually had him in handcuffs, he literally yelled out that he was planning to kill my whole family and John and all my friends, so that had only one person to go with, him. He was so delusional, believing I would go back with him after he killed all of that people I know personally. That was just crazy. He was put in for psychological violation. Turned out he was capable to stand for trial. Well, long to make the whole trial senses being considering, I was actually had by the time giving over all the information I had, text messages, the notes, and even Sean had testified about his behavior. And well, let's say Jacob was sentenced to lifetime in jail without possibility of parole. I was happy for that. And another positive thing did happen about this. Sean and I actually started dating. And we actually are now married. He is, well, we're both 27 years old, and we are married and have two beautiful kids together, a daughter and a son. And I could have been happier. And Sarah, well, she apologized to me sometime after this event happened, that she felt it was her fault that she gave him my number, Jacob. But I didn't blame her for that, because this was before I even knew him personally well enough. And like I said, I was living nightmares for weeks during this constant terror from him. He actually had been banging on my door almost every time when I was not dating anymore. I just put mention that. And so for that, Jacob is now in jail for the rest of his life. Good thing for that, because no matter what would happen, I won't even want to think what he could have done to another person. So Jacob, you belong where you belong. Thank you for that.